Okay, so here we have just a really simple chat system. This is hooked up to the OpenAI API for ChatGPT. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it in a mode without RAG first. And in this example, we can see here RAG enabled is false. In this example, I'm going to pretend I'm a new employee at Docuvela, and I have some questions about how to set up my passwords. So here I'm just going to type a question. I'm going to say, and I'm going to ask it about setting up my passwords. And here it's responded, and you'll notice that first, it doesn't have any information about Docuvela's password policy, but it's responding in a way that makes sense. It's trying to be helpful. It's trying to provide just sort of generic information about setting up passwords in a good way. And there's a couple of ways to look at this. One, it's trying to be helpful. It's providing good examples, but it's really not specific to Docuvela or our policies. So let's try this. Let's try to ask a question that's even a little bit more detailed. So So I'm asking who approved Docuvela's password and security policies. And again, it's trying to be helpful. It's responding in a generic but authoritative way. And it's saying that it's typically developed and approved by the IT department. Again, it's helpful information, but it's not exactly specific to Docuvela. Or how about this? How about what? So if I want to know more, what's the document number for the password policy? And here we can see it has no idea. And it comes out and says that as an AI model, he doesn't have access to specific policies, and responds again helpfully, but without, very, very much detail. And I'm going to ask one more question here. Other documents. And here's just another example of it, trying to be helpful, but it's returning documents that really may or may not exist at Docuvela because it really doesn't know. So now let's ask these same questions, but I'm gonna, on my other screen here, I'm gonna flip this to RAG mode. And we're just gonna rerun this. And we'll here see that RAG enabled is true. So now I'm going to ask these same questions. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to copy and paste them. So now it's responded in a much more helpful way. I won't pull up the documents here, but these steps here for password management and requirements are taken directly from Docuvela's password management policy. So again, while you could argue that the previous example wasn't necessarily a hallucination, it was a generic answer, whereas this is much more specific. So now let's take a look at our other questions. So who approved the password and security policies? And this is responded exactly with who approved, their role, and it's a much more detailed answer. Let's do this one here. Whoops. As you would expect here, it can respond very confidently and correctly that the document number is policy 101. And finally, let's ask it any additional documents. And here it's responded with other policies that the user should look at. And while this is just a simple text-based chat, in a more complete system, we could provide these as links to actually allow the user to click the document and view it directly. Well, that's just a quick look at, using a very, very simple chat system that's connected to the OpenAI API. And just an example of the differences of responses when the LLM has no context to our Docuvela policies, and how those responses change when we use RAG to give the LLM that needed context.